So in my last Ableton tutorial, I showed you how you could build a rack using the hybrid reverb and use it to get these large cinematic sort of ambient reverbs. And I promised that I would revisit this using here the basic stock effects you get in intro and standard Ableton versions. So we have the standard reverb, we have the standard delay, chorus ensemble, saturator, etc. Simple stuff. So I said I'd revisit that and look at how you can use these effects from these sort of lower level versions of Ableton to still achieve some very nice cinematic ambient reverbs. Anyway, let's have a quick listen and then I'll show you how this rack is put together, how it works, and finally, if you're interested, how you can build it yourselves for your own music. Let's just have a look what we have here. We have Drift playing this progression. It's we turn off the rack. You can hear exactly what it's actually playing before we put it through the rack. But once you click in the reverb, then you get the effects you want. So let's have a look then what we have. It's based on this similar principle to, as I say, what I had in my last video, where we're using chorus into delay and then into reverb. We've also got some saturation at the very beginning of the signal. This takes it into the chorus ensemble here. We can control this from the macros. The delay, we don't have so much control over delay, but we'll get into that in the build. And then we have our reverb, the standard reverb, which you get in the base versions of Ableton Live. And then we have an EQ3 here, which is used to darken the tone. So let's have a little play around here. What do we have? Well, let's turn our reverb width down a bit for a second. And maybe drop the dry wet a little. So we have some basic controls. We have a way of controlling the amount of chorus. Put that up again. We have a way of controlling the chorus going into the reverb, and these values are restricted, so you don't have full access to the chorus amount. I've tried to keep it in a window so that we get values that are relevant for these sort of ambient tones we're after. We have control over the feedback, the chorus width, and the amount of chorus. Now, if you drop this down to 30, it says 30, but it actually disengages the chorus here. Then we have here our reverb pre-delay, so we can control. Let's maybe close it, or leave those open for a second. We have a reverb pre-delay, we have the reverb width, we can control the width of the reverb. And we have our reverb dry mix. Then we have the time. Reverb time. Push this up to big values. Then our delay is introduced here. Now I have this function called space, which I'll get to in the build, but it just starts to introduce various methods of affecting the tone. Notice the delay is not on at the moment. The delay only kicks in when we get to 40. Once we get to 40, then we have our delay activated, and as we increase this, we'll also increase the feedback here up to 95%. So any other settings within delay have to be made yourself. I've set it here to 2/16 and 50% dry wet, no ping pong. You could put those on, but there's a lack of macro, so I couldn't map all of this. You just have to come and set your delay up. We can maybe close this here, the saturator, just add some grit to the tone. I say then we can introduce our chorus. Maybe reduce the width. This one here, the darken, this one actually really is, let's close this for a second so we can see what's going on here. Controls the EQ here. You can see the values changing to darken the tone. Has some other controls, as say we'll get to all those when we put it all together, but effectively it's there just to you can see it's also filtering the diffusion network in the reverb here. So there's a few things that are set up with it. Then we have our reflections here, which is also a reverb function, the amount of reflections, so we can reduce them if we don't want them. I think they're initial reflections from the reverb, and then we can diffuse the reverb more or have less diffusion so that it's not so dense. We don't want such a dense reverb. Then we can have some functions here for modulation, which add modulation to, here we can see our reverb, so we can add modulation to the reverb. And then finally we have the option here in the reverb, let's see if I can see it again, it should be here, this freeze, so we can freeze our reverb if we want, and then play over the top of a frozen reverb tone. So we can either add the reverb, if we turn it off, then we're just adding constantly to the reverb with our new notes, new inputs that are coming through. But if we keep it in the on position, then it doesn't add to it. So we have those options as well on this reverb, or we can turn it all off. Okay, so that's basically it. It's not so much to it. As I say, you can, if you want, you can randomize these values as well. Some of them I have excluded. The dry wet, and I believe the freeze is excluded from randomization, but we can search for different reverb spaces, see what comes along, get some interesting things. If you find a reverb you like, then you can just save it here as a new snapshot. Save this one. Found one. Okay, so you can create these, then you would save your rack here with this icon. That would appear in your user library under presets, audio effect. So presets, audio effects, audio effect rack, and you would find it in there if you want to drop it into different projects. Just for your info, I have on the main here, I do have a compressor. It's the glue compressor. That's not in the basic versions or the lower versions of Ableton Live. You could use a normal compressor, and I have it limited just on the track to control things. Okay, so let's have a look how it's put together. It's all very simple. Just looks a little bit complicated, but it's really a case of dropping in the effects, gluing them together, doing a little bit of mapping, adding some values in here for the constraints, these values here, but I'll put screenshots up for these so you can pause the video and input them yourselves, and yeah, make use of this video. Okay, let's have a look then how it's put together. You're going to need then an instrument rack. You'll find that in your instrument rack. Just drop and drag it onto a track. You can open the macros with this top icon. I've kept my original names. You can right click and rename them here. You can use your names or my names if you like. So we'll use all of these. You can open them with the plus button here. We use all 16. So the first thing we're going to do then is just to drop our effects in that we're going to need. So we'll go to Audio Effects and we'll drop them in quickly. Then we'll set them up, and finally we'll do the mapping and the constraints. So we need a saturator to begin with. Drop that into the rack. Then the chorus ensemble, we'll drop that in as well. Then we have a delay, a reverb, standard reverb, and finally at the back of the rack we have the EQ3 here. We can drop those in. Okay, so we'll go through very quickly and just set up a few things. I left this on analog clip. There's nothing we need to do on the saturator, so we can close that. The chorus ensemble, I set the warmth here to 50%, and the time I had on auto, this is the new 12.4 chorus ensemble, so I had this on auto here. The width we will map. Okay, then nothing to do there. Then we have the delay, I had this on 2/16. The dry wet I left at 50%. This we will map. Okay, so that's also set up. On the reverb I deactivated the chorus here because we're using our own chorus. Density I left as it is. These we will map here. What else do we have? The spin we will also map as well. Okay, so I also activated the high and the low filters here, and we will map this one, but this one here I put a value of 16,000 and 0.2. Scale I set to 50%, and the diffusion we will map. Okay, so that's everything. The low here we will map as well. So that's the reverb setup, and the EQ3 there's nothing to set up there, I believe. That's all for mapping. Okay, so now we can go through and map these, then we'll open them all up again. And I'll just work through my list as I have it here. So the first one is the time on the reverb here. So we will take the decay time here and map that to time here. Then we have the space delay has some settings here. So I have the delay device on. We'll map that here. Then I have this box here, which is the offset for the delay. We'll also map that to our delay here. So a little bit of offset we can use. We have the delay feedback as well. We'll also map this to space delay plus 40, along with the room size for the reverb. So we'll just grab that, which is here, the size for the reverb. We'll map that here as well. Now let's just close the delay for a second. I think we have everything we want mapped there. So we'll just concentrate on the reverb now. We have the stereo image of the reverb here, which is the reverb width here. We'll map that there. Then we have the reverb pre-delay here. We'll map that to the pre-delay. The reverb dry wet here. Map that here. Reflect here, which is the reverb reflection value. We'll map that here. And the diffuse, that goes here to diffusion. Then we have for the freeze, we have the freeze on. This one here, we'll map to the freeze. And also this thing called cut, which allows us to either overdub or not overdub the reverb. So those two we have in there. Then we have also the mod rate here, which we will take here and map to the mod rate. and the mod depth is the amounts here. Then the final one we have is the diffusion level, which is this here, which will also map to our diffuse here. So we have those all in. Now for the darken here, we need to have the saturator. We need the device on, this icon here. We'll map that here. The drive will also map. The diffusion low band frequency, which we get from our reverb. Let's have a look, which is this value here on our diffusion network. We'll map that to the darken. Then we need to go to our EQ. Get these three. We have the gain low, also the mid gain, and the high gain here. Now we just need the chorus values. So we have the chorus width here. So we take the chorus width and we'll map that to our chorus width here. The chorus dry wet, this one here. Then we have the rate, chorus rate, the chorus amount, and the chorus feedback here. Let's just check. So we have the width, the rate, the feedback, and forgot one, the chorus on off, which we also map to this dry wet here. Okay, so that's everything mapped. As I say, now I'll put up these screenshots here. You can punch in these constraint values, and once they're in, everything should work. Okay, I'll see you after that. So okay, once you've got the values in, as I say, everything should work. I'll just go here. I showed you how to save the rack here. That'll save it for you for use in other projects. We'll just go back to the progression again and make sure everything's working okay. Come out of the mapping here. We can restart our progression again. Okay, as I say, I tend to keep the delay open so that I can make settings here if I want. Let's just try, exclude the reverb dry wet and the freeze here from your settings if the freeze works. Then it just overdubs effectively the reverb. If it's not adding to it, that seems to work. Dry wet. Let's try the time. Yeah, things seem to be working. This one here, below 40 delay off, 40 delay on, and then you increase, as I say, the feedback here. These values are all set in the constraints to restrict your range and to keep you in, as I said before, in this sort of ambient sphere, if you like. Okay, let's try a random. See what we get. This one darkens. Let's have a look. No feedback here. Let's try that. Make sure the EQ is working. Try another one. So anyway, I hope this video has been useful to you. You can get a lot out of the stock effects in Ableton. Have a go at building it yourselves. It's not too tricky, and use it in your music. See you in the next video. Take care.